Hello everyone, and welcome back to our channel. Today, we're diving into a very powerful and pivotal chapter in the Bible, Matthew chapter 26, specifically verses 1 through 30. This passage marks a significant turning point in the life of Jesus. We are just 2 days away from the Passover, and the atmosphere is thick with tension and anticipation. Jesus has just finished a series of profound teachings, and now he begins to speak plainly to his disciples about his impending death. In these verses, we witness a dramatic sequence of events. We'll see the religious leaders, the chief priests, scribes, and elders deepening their plot to arrest and kill Jesus. Their conspiracy is a stark contrast to an act of profound love and worship that takes place in Bethany. A woman comes to Jesus with a very expensive alabaster jar of ointment and anoints him. This beautiful gesture is misunderstood by some of the disciples, but Jesus defends her, explaining its deep significance in preparation for his burial. Then, the narrative takes a dark turn as we see the betrayal of Judas Iscariot. Driven by motives we can only speculate upon, he goes to the chief priests and agrees to hand Jesus over for 30 pieces of silver. This moment is one of the most tragic in all of Scripture. Finally, we arrive at the Last Supper. Jesus gathers his disciples to celebrate the Passover. But this meal is unlike any other. He transforms the ancient ritual into something new, something that will define the Christian faith for millennia to come. He breaks bread and shares the cup, instituting what we now know as communion or the Lord's Supper. It is during this intimate meal that he reveals one of them will betray him, sending a wave of shock and sorrow through the room. As we read through this passage together, let us pay close attention to the contrasts: the hatred of the plotters versus the love of the woman, the greed of Judas versus the selfless sacrifice of Jesus. Let's reflect on the weight of these moments and what they mean for us today. Now, let's open our hearts and minds as we read from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 26, verses 1 to 30. When Jesus had finished all these sayings, he said to his disciples, "You know that after 2 days the Passover is coming, and the Son of Man will be delivered up to be crucified." Then the chief priests, the scribes, and the elders of the people gathered in the palace of the high priest, whose name was Caiaphas, and plotted together in order to arrest Jesus by stealth and kill him. But they said, "Not during the feast, lest there be an uproar among the people." Now when Jesus was at Bethany in the house of Simon the leper, a woman came up to him with an alabaster flask of very expensive ointment, and she poured it on his head as he reclined at table. And when the disciples saw it, they were indignant, saying, "Why this waste? For this could have been sold for a large sum and given to the poor." But Jesus, aware of this, said to them, "Why do you trouble the woman? For she has done a beautiful thing to me. For you always have the poor with you, but you will not always have me. In pouring this ointment on my body, she has done it to prepare me for burial. Truly, I say to you, wherever this gospel is proclaimed in the whole world, what she has done will also be told in memory of her." Then one of the 12, whose name was Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priests and said, "What will you give me if I deliver him over to you?" And they paid him 30 pieces of silver. And from that moment he sought an opportunity to betray him. Now on the first day of unleavened bread the disciples came to Jesus, saying, "Where will you have us prepare for you to eat the Passover?" He said, "Go into the city to a certain man and say to him, 'The teacher says, my time is at hand. I will keep the Passover at your house with my disciples.'" And the disciples did as Jesus had directed them, and they prepared the Passover. When it was evening, he reclined at table with the 12, and as they were eating, he said, "Truly, I say to you, one of you will betray me." And they were very sorrowful and began to say to him one after another, "Is it I, Lord?" He answered, "He who has dipped his hand in the dish with me will betray me. The Son of Man goes as it is written of him. But woe to that man by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It would have been better for that man if he had not been born." Judas, who would betray him, answered, "Is it I, Rabbi?" He said to him, "You have said so." Now as they were eating, Jesus took bread, and after blessing it broke it and gave it to the disciples, and said, "Take, eat, this is my body." And he took a cup, and when he had given thanks he gave it to them, saying, "Drink of it, all of you, for this is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins. I tell you, I will not drink again of this fruit of the vine until that day, when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom." And when they had sung a hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives. What an incredibly dense and moving passage. Let's take a moment to reflect on what we've just read. First, we see the absolute sovereignty and knowledge of Jesus. He isn't a passive victim of circumstances. He tells his disciples exactly what will happen. The Son of Man will be delivered up to be crucified. He is in complete control, willingly walking the path laid out before him. Then there's the beautiful, selfless act of the woman with the alabaster jar. While the disciples saw it as a waste of resources, Jesus saw her heart. He saw an act of pure worship and recognized its prophetic significance. He said she was preparing him for burial. This reminds us that sometimes our greatest acts of worship might not make sense to the world, but God sees the intention behind them. Her legacy is sealed by Jesus himself, promising her story will be told wherever the gospel is preached. What an incredible honor. In stark contrast, we have the heart-wrenching betrayal of Judas. For 30 pieces of silver, the price of a slave, he agrees to hand over the Son of God. It's a chilling reminder of how greed and a hardened heart can lead us down a path of utter destruction. Jesus' words, "It would have been better for that man if he had not been born," are some of the most sobering in all of Scripture. And finally, the Last Supper. This isn't just a final meal, it's the institution of a new covenant. When Jesus breaks the bread and shares the cup, he's giving his disciples, and us, a tangible way to remember his sacrifice. "This is my body. This is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins." Through this simple act, we are invited to participate in the story of salvation, to remember the immense price paid for our freedom. This passage challenges us on so many levels. Are we like the plotting religious leaders, more concerned with our own power and tradition than with the truth? Are we like the disciples, sometimes well-intentioned but slow to understand the deeper spiritual realities? Are we like the woman, willing to pour out our very best for Jesus, no matter the cost or what others think? Or, and this is a hard question, are there parts of our hearts that resonate with Judas, willing to trade our relationship with Christ for worldly gain? As we move forward into the rest of the Passion narrative, let's carry these questions with us. Let's ask God to give us hearts like the woman at Bethany, hearts of pure, extravagant worship. And let's cherish the gift of communion, the beautiful reminder that Jesus' body was broken and his blood was shed for us. Thank you so much for joining me today to explore this incredible passage. I hope it has spoken to you as much as it has to me. If you found this video meaningful, please give it a like and consider subscribing to the channel for more content like this. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Which part of this passage stands out to you the most? Let's continue the conversation there. Until next time, may God bless you.